Well, hello everybody. Welcome to today's Go Global webinar, it's part of the series, and today we're addressing the subject of international e-commerce platforms. Welcome to you all. I'm so pleased that you could attend today, and thank you for those. We see people who are attending from across Europe and across the United States. So I'm not too sure what time it is with you, but nevertheless welcome, and we will be doing our level best to ensure that you get real value from your time with us today as we discuss international e-commerce platforms. I take this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is John Worthington. I am the guy on your screen in the bottom right-hand side there. I am CEO here at IBT, and I do love our Go Global webinar series. I like webinars very much. I try to attend 3 or 4 webinars myself each month to make sure I keep up to speed on what is going on. It's a great way to learn. There is so much innovation out there. It's crucial to keep up to speed with what's going on. Today, there's no other subject to describe international e-commerce platforms as one of those where innovation is happening all the time, and it is very important to keep up to date. So we're very pleased to address this subject and have experts on that subject talking with us today. Today, we've got a really great platform and program for you. As you know, and as you can see from the subjects that we're going to be addressing, we do a lot of background work and research, but we also bring, of course, experts to bear when we're addressing these subjects. This should be a lot of useful information provided by Nick and a lot of takeaways. It is certainly our objective to make sure that you have all of that information that you need to about international e-commerce platforms. I'm going to take a moment just to address the subject of housekeeping. And do note that this webinar is one in a series called Go Global Webinar Series. And so do not be surprised that our objective is to bring you everything about business that is online and global, and do that regularly. And for future webinars, do go to our website, www.ibtpartners.com/resources/webinars on demand. You can see all the webinars that are coming up. There's a long list of good subjects coming up in the near future. Also, do know we have been producing webinars now for over 2 years, so there is a wonderful backlog catalog that you can have access to, again at /IBTpartners/resources/webinars. You can find many subjects that we've addressed and many experts there to share information with you. This webinar will be approximately 45 minutes long, and I will be handing over to our host today, Susanna. You see Susanna there at the bottom of your screen on the left. And today's expert speaker, Nick, our own business development director there. Today we will be having 5 polls. So the polls, you can see on your screen on the right there, polls on 05 at the moment. So just please do participate. Drop that down. You'll see the screen go up when I launch it. And please participate. Your opinion is very welcome. We would love to have your view and your opinion. Also questions. Again, just underneath polls, you'll see questions. Please open that box up. Start submitting your questions. If you hear Susanna or Nick talking about a particular subject, well, and you want to have some input and an answer, just dive in there, send us your questions, please. And similarly on chat, don't hesitate to chat. We will be there with you. At the end of this webinar, there will be a brief survey. Again, we will be requesting some information from you as to your thoughts with regards to the Go Global webinar series and international e-commerce platforms. And finally, just relax and enjoy this webinar. You don't have to take any notes. We are recording the slide deck, and it will all be made available to you on Friday. This will be prepared and curated by somebody in our back office and then sent to you automatically via email. So watch out on Friday and you'll get a copy of the recording. So please sit back, enjoy, and the webinar subjects now will begin. I will begin by introducing, first of all, let me introduce Susanna. Susanna Hardy. Susanna is the Director of IBT for Client Services. Susanna has been with IBT for over 15 years. Susanna was educated and has worked and lived in both the US, that is in New York, but also in Europe, in Germany, the United Kingdom, and France. Susanna speaks German, French, English, and Dutch. and has years of experience helping companies go international through online programs and online services. And now to Nick, our own Nick Pandya. Nick is Director of Business Development here at IBT and based in our London office. Professionally speaking, Nick is all about online and retail, his core competencies. Nick has over 15 years of experience in e-commerce platforms and international brand development with a focus on clothing and fashion. And you can see that in the way that he dresses. Nick is always the smartest guy in the office, and we love his shirts and ties here. Well, this is quite relevant to the subject, as Nick is going to be telling us all about e-commerce and going international with a lot of clothing and fashion sector expertise. Nick knows all about the skill sets that are required to be successful, about the leading suppliers, the leading platforms, the retail brand cycle for development, from international e-commerce platforms all the way through to payments and, of course, logistics. Nick is a leading light and provides ongoing leadership, as he is a member of many e-retail industry associations. And today we're very lucky he will be sharing a lot of his experience and information with us today. So without more ado, I'm going to just say 2 words on IBT. IBT is a company, International Business and Technologies. We are all about helping our clients go international. We are a private company of online engineers and business developers. We have staff and offices in the US, the United Kingdom, Germany, France, and China. We've been in business for over 15 years now, providing services. Our core activity is helping companies to grow their businesses and do that internationally through website localization and then providing all of that ongoing online marketing and, of course, e- and n-commerce services in target markets. Our core message is, of course, go global with website localization. And this sits so well along the international e-commerce platform subject, which today is going to be all about selling online, making your online presence transactional, and driving your sales market by market. Of course, in today's digital world, a company's #1 asset for marketing sales is online. So without more ado, I'd say use it. And I will be handing over to Susanna now, who will be introducing us to today's program. Susanna, thank you.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you for attending, everybody. Welcome to all the exporters. We're going to be talking about e-commerce platforms, basically where they fit in today's international scene, how they're disrupting not just B2C, but B2B. Then Nick's going to go through the main e-commerce choices that we have, and we've really tried to group them and organize them in a way that we can understand them best and summarize their pros and cons. After that, we're going to talk about what we really mean by localization, both in terms of international optimization and marketing, and then just some summary takeaways. And as John said, please, we would encourage you to put in questions there and interact as we go along. That would be great. So I'm looking forward to your questions at the end. Now, I just wanted to share this picture with you. It comes from a McKinsey report that came out earlier this year, and I was very intrigued with it because I'm hearing a lot about sort of the end of globalization and that big, international trade is stalling, and there's certainly a lot of protectionist politics going on. So I was very intrigued by this report that came out, which is really talking about the fact that it's missing the point. The digital flows has really replaced and superseded a lot of the international trade. So as they pointed out, the amount of cross-border bandwidth is a factor of 45, and it's still growing. By the way, you'll note that in yellow there, that's the US-Europe bandwidth, which is by far the largest in the world, interestingly enough. And it's clear that this transmission is valuable streams of information and ideas in their own right, but it's also what is the enabler. It's also what makes the possible movement of goods and services. So virtually every type of cross-border transaction today has a digital component. So I thought that was, very interesting and just spot on what we're talking about here, both for digitalization and international trade. And so e-commerce in that sense is where the future of trade is going to be played out. And conventional trade and trade routes are actually in decline. I was intrigued to see Maersk, the largest shipping company in the world, the Danish company, largest shipping company in the world, just produced pretty poor results. They fired their CEO. But if you look at it, it's actually quite interesting, and also what they have to say is quite interesting. Trade measured by shipping is static, but trade measured by logistics is in a fast-growing area. And this takes us back to e-commerce. And just sort of where we are on that. If you look just at cross-border, what's going on, China cross-border e-commerce is going to be $1 trillion this year. The total amount is easily going to be global cross-border is going to be 25% of all imports of goods by pretty soon. So this is, I think, also what's happening, and this is the best slide I could figure out to show you the importance of e-commerce, the importance of cross-border, and where we're going in the future. So just to sort of go back on terms of
Susanna, yes, I was going to jump in. Sorry about that. Right, I've got a poll. Please, we would love to have some feedback straight from you now. This is going to be the first of our polls that I'm going to launch right now. So please get your mice or mouses ready. And here you go. Here is the first poll. It's, are you actively selling via e-commerce today? So we'd like to know, you out there, attendees, thank you for attending and thank you for participating. Let us know. 75% are saying that yes, they are domestic and internationally. 13% are saying that it's domestic only, and it's at the moment, well, that's dropped about, so about 30% are saying they're thinking about it. So look, thank you very much. Clearly there is a good majority out there already doing that. I'm going to close this poll with a, there you go. That is the end of the first poll. Thank you, Susanna, back to you.
Thank you very much, John. So just in conclusion on this one, just to say the world's trade is going through platforms rather than merchants and ships. Now looking at those platforms, there is a global retail index, e-commerce index that's published every year, and we track this quite a bit. It's interesting to see, every year the numbers continue to be very strong. Sales overall up 20% a year and so on. It's very much country by country though, and the biggest countries are, the rate of growth is slowing, it's clear, but it's still much faster than anything we're seeing that's not online. Interesting to note that 4 out of the world's 10 most attractive online markets are located within Europe. This is despite the fact that Europe does not have a super software giant in that field, and Nick will talk about that a little bit later. So that's, I think, interesting as well to note the strengths both of the U.S. and China in that as a market. South America as well doesn't really show up on this index until about 15th place, but one of the fastest growing at the moment is Mexico. It's growing at about 35%. India also growing 35%. There's some structural reasons in Latin America why it's a little bit stalling, particularly in Brazil and Argentina, mainly because of logistics and some tax issues. But I think it's overall, I just wanted to share that index with you to say, it is still a very fast-growing place, and it's affecting really all markets everywhere now. So just now the next slide, I just want to show you some of the major trends we're seeing. This is very much a top picture view, and I'm sure you're all aware of these trends. I just wanted to bring it though to your attention. Obviously, some of the big trends now, video, no site is complete without its video and YouTube's. The next one obviously is mobile. In some markets, mobile is more important than PCs. In China, for example, e-commerce on mobile devices is about 22% of all mobile sales. That's 1 trillion transactions a year. So worth thinking about. You have to be fully mobile enabled these days. And the third one, which I've already alluded to, is obviously the cross-border sales. Very hard to get actual real numbers on the cross-border sales. But I think from our point of view, and what we would recommend from our clients is, You need now to have the notion of cross-border sales embedded into your website from the very inception. From the very beginning, you have to assume that people will find you in other markets if you have a good product, and that you will want to find them to have better leads. And according to various studies, e-commerce is certainly growing at about twice the rate of domestic e-commerce sales at the moment. So really, really important to be there at that time. John, do we do another poll here?
Yeah, Susanna, thank you very much indeed. Here we go, and my horn is ready as well, so we're not going to be there long. I'm launching poll number 2. Here you go. Please come to it. Are your websites up to date? Susanna's just been asking some questions related to that. So what about using videos? Are you using videos? Are you mobile enabled? And are you ready for cross-border sales? So I'm pleased to say that 67% are saying yes, we're on videos. 17%, very low number, surprising. I'm surprised by that. 13% are saying mobile enabled and 25% ready for cross-border. Well, thank you. I'm going to go like this. There we go, and close out. That's number 2 down. And thank you for that information. I do hope that you'll find the information you need today, certainly to address some of those issues. Back to you, Susanna.
Thank you, John. Just sort of giving an overview before I turn to Nick, we wanted to try and organize our discussion in terms of choices that you could have in terms of e-commerce. And what we found is we could group them into 4 distinct areas. We've called them online malls, plugins, distributor platforms, or your own country-specific website. So I'd like to just turn to Nick now, if he's ready, so that we can go through and look at some of those in more detail, starting off with online malls. Nick, is that good with you?
Yep, fantastic. Thanks very much. Excellent. Well, thanks again, Susanna and John, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to go through with you the sort of 4 key platforms that are the most popular in terms of use. And on this slide, as you can see, that we have 3 key players that really take up most of the space with regards to online malls. And everyone knows that Amazon's up there as a sort of a key player, and we have Alibaba, that's more based in China, and Rakuten, that's the key player in Japan. So they all have slightly different systems in terms of how they work and operate. So Amazon runs a closed system, and Alibaba, Rakuten operate a open system. So basically what that means is the closed system is an all-inclusive package for merchants. Its services include warehouse management, logistics, customer service, whereas the open system provides a platform and payment gateway. However, the business owners do need to manage their own inventory, logistics, and customer services by themselves. Rakuten offer a slightly different type of platform in that it's a membership-based platform which is more loyalty-driven by offering consumers direct benefits through cashback, super points that can be exchanged for offline and online shopping. So they're the 3 key players, and then there's a number of local players in various different countries, and I've just picked out 3 there. We have Zalando, that's based in Germany. They are their number 1 sort of local player over there, and it's sort of interesting also that there are no European leaders among the top at the moment, despite Europe's strong position within e-commerce. The UK is, after all, the number 3 global e-commerce market in terms of size. So this also reflected in that Europe has several really strong local players like Zalando and Cdiscount, and then we have, from an international point of view, Flipkart over in India. So just moving on to the advantages, disadvantages, going through them very quickly. As I say, it's pretty straightforward in terms of setup, easy, quick setup, minimum investment. This is obviously the easiest and fastest way to get e-commerce traction. Pros and cons. Pros, great, as I said, simple low-cost setup, simple application process. With regard to the cons, this sort of type of platform can dilute the brand identity unknown broad target audience, product feed integration needs to be considered, no ongoing marketing or promotion, and obviously there are monthly fees and other applications to consider. So there's a few things there that obviously you need to take on board. Verdict, I suppose, understanding the market requirements for your brand in line with being country and centric. That said, that's not even always enough in terms of what's required. We've worked with many tier 1 retailers, and just to give you an example, we had a client who wanted to test the Indian market, and they went to Flipkart and came across all sorts of challenges and needed a local entity, Indian bank account, import, export licenses, and so the sort of list went on. Bottom line, basically this is great for the first toe in the water. So clients we work with here typically add a local website to offset all of these disadvantages. So still trade via Amazon or whoever, but layer it with a localized website to make sure that you get brand recognition and long-term strategy. Again, country-specific localized websites offset all of these disadvantages. Okay, moving on. So, so this is very popular. Plugin platforms. You know, there's a platform that's ready to plug in. They have basically have all of the add-ons ready to go, and there are a wealth of platforms there. Different businesses have different needs, but you know, some key players: Shopify, Lemon Stand, BigCommerce. They're all there. That are very popular as a sort of plug-in platform, and you've got to be aware here with regards to the underlying software, because you know you've got all of these different bolt-ons. When you take WordPress, for example, which is a good example, it started life as a blogging platform, but now bolting on to lots of additional plugins and add-ons as they rebrand and their e-commerce development. They have around 7 different e-commerce platforms that are compatible with WordPress. The largest of them all is WooCommerce, which currently powers about 18% of e-commerce websites on the entire internet. So it's slightly sort of uncharted waters. Important point to take away here really on board is, you know, you've got to ask yourself how scalable this is. Is it multilingual? Is it right for global? These are the things you've got to be asking yourself all the time. One key player there at the moment that's very popular in the UK and is probably the fastest growing is Magento. So, okay, let's talk about the advantages, moving on to advantages and disadvantages for plugins. Pretty straightforward in terms of, again, quick minimum setup, minimum investment, some sort of brand development and marketing that's available as a bolt-on. No front-up fee. The cons to this really is it's a pay-as-you-go scheme. You know, you've got a monthly fixed fee, third-party integrations do limit marketing opportunities. No one-size-fits-all. Different businesses have different needs, so it can be very slow to customize. And you know, I want to jump into another case study with a tier 1 multi-channel merchant that we worked with, and they went down this route and they came across all sorts of challenges. And just to list some of them, too many third-party bolt-on services created communication issues in connection to logistics and returns. They had issues around currency exchange, fraud, and were unable to target really the correct demographic audience due to the limited social media marketing. So basically it's a good solution, you know, for a new to export relatively small company just starting up, has a very small budget. Great, you know, it's another move forward, and it gets them operational. Bottom line, DIY plugins cannot take you international as a standalone. They do need a dedicated international website to be effective, and you have to have a good localized website to plug it into. Also, it's only with a dedicated international site that you can do the necessary marketing integrations to offset those disadvantages. Okay, so moving on to distributor platforms, and this is quite popular with a lot of people who just want to use third-party distributor platforms. Everything's set up, good to go. It's very common. So there's 2 types basically. The most common choice certainly for B2B companies, let your distributor do all the work here. So you can see that we've got a generalist distributor site and we've got dedicated sites. The distributor sites can either be, with regard to being general, and you look at some of the retailers who are listed there, so the likes of Lowe's and B&Q in the UK, or Elf International that distribute branded consumer electronics, sort of work with like a generalist type retailer where you have other brands, you have other brands products, and it's a bit of a mixed bag. And then you have many companies distribute a website that is industry specific, so like Rexel, as you see there, for electricals, or Tree Life for organic produce. Many companies opt for the distributed websites when they start out trading internationally. And you can see why, because hey, look, the distributor takes care of all of the marketing and inventory, so again, it's a pretty much, give them the product, they'll put it in their shop window, and we're good to go. One thing to be aware of, what you're doing here is opening up to competition, and that can have some real sort of damaging reverse effects. So in some cases, this distributor could offer a cheaper version of your product, and so diluting your brand presence. So things like that just to consider. Okay, so let's look at just basically advantages and disadvantages again, just to cover those off again. Again, limited investment, some marketing that's required, so it's pretty much straightforward. Great solution if you're starting in a new market or have a great relation with your distributor. I mean, that's fantastic. But again, distributors do carry the risk of taking ownership of your brand in a way you may not agree. And I always sort of highlight what I call the 3 Ds, and they are description, display, and distribution. That all could have a negative effect. I mean, they're all giving the whole ownership across to the distributor, and basically, that the life of that product is in their hands. So something else just to consider there. But bottom line, with regards to where e-commerce is concerned, it pays to remember that despite the rise of global culture, everyone across the world does not necessarily share the same taste and values. Therefore, localization is crucial to successfully tapping into local demand. And again, country-specific localized websites offset the disadvantages. So bear that in mind as well. Okay, so moving on to what I call localized. This is the ultimate site to have. You're sucking in all of the other sort of platforms, all of the other channels, the online mall, the DIY plugin, the distributor, but the key thing here is, it's all about control. You've got that control, and that's so important when you're going international. For companies that really want to take control of their global business and strategy, they should think about localized websites in their priority market that can be transactional in themselves. So we've got 2 screen grabs here from clients we've worked with. We built their international sites and made them transactional, so the clients and even the international distributors can buy from them directly. But in some markets where they are just starting, it makes more sense just to use the platform that is from their distributor or online mall. So this way they have the choice. But best of all, have a fully functional transactional site. So it's about control, having that, and control of the destiny of where your brand's going and how that's been marketed, and using all the different other channels, including marketing, to get out there and get maximum awareness and control of all of the activity. Okay, so moving on to basically what are the advantages and disadvantages to have this, I suppose, that ultimate platform. Well, really, I mean, you've got their brand development, marketing, professional design, and everything's there. It's all good. The only downside is it's obviously going to cost a little bit more. There's setup investment, but you're going to get that investment back. It's having, as I said, you're putting it all back into the business and having control. Where e-commerce is concerned, it pays to remember that despite the rise of global culture, everyone across the world again does not necessarily share the same taste and values. Therefore, localization of your product offering to meet the needs of your target market is a paramount to the success of your market entry. So that's pretty much what you need to take on board.
Nick, could
finally,
Nick,
yeah.
I'm sorry, could I jump in there, but just because thank you so much, I just want to give a quick poll there, but just as you're continuing to say, please, everybody, Nick has given a great little outline there of the main platforms and then the combination of platforms, and we'd love to have a poll. So please sit up, get ready, here we go. I'm launching poll number 3. This is, which e-commerce route have you chosen? Now, some of you said that you're out there doing this, so please, are you using global malls? Are you using DIY plugs? Have you got your goods and products and services through distributor sites? Do you have localized sites, or are you thinking about it? Now, let me give you some feedback here before I press the horn to close this down. 22% say that they're on global malls, 11% and 11% on DIY and distributor sites, and 56%, a big 56% are thinking about it. I'm closing it down. Thank you so much for that feedback, and then I'm going to say, Nick, back to you.
Thanks very much, John. So I just really want to close on finally my version of how I define a brand. So ultimately, what is a brand? My version or definition to that is it is like a roadmap in that it leads a customer to a desired destination. And ultimately, you want to have control of that destination, which is the way to do it internationally. So that's my takeaway and definition of a brand, and I hope you can take some good things from that. Thank you.
Nick, thanks very much. That's a fantastic top-down approach and view of e-commerce choices that international exporters get today. I just wanted maybe to focus in now on this localized websites, what we mean by that, and how that helps any of the e-commerce platforms that you go on, whether they are e-commerce enabled, so transactional sites or not. The advantage of having these websites localized into your export target markets comes through, and that's been clear now from Nick's presentation, whether you're going on the online mall, a DIY plugin, a distributor platform, or building your own. So just a very quick summary of sort of a checklist. So what we would say is a localized website. So we've counted a couple of things here about country-specific content, and that's the easy things. The obvious ones are things like currencies and things, but it goes much more than that. It's also about the case studies. It's making people aware and feel really at ease that you know their culture, that they can trust you to know their market. And that also comes in terms of country-specific designs, and I've got some pictures there of a US versus a UK. And then thirdly, multilingual is absolutely essential, and it's not about translating. It's about it's certainly not about Google Translate. It's about not just word translation, but really embedding something in the local culture. And there's a lot of information and a lot of studies going on about the use of language and how language affects the buying and selling process online. We've done quite a lot of work on that. If you want to download some of our resources, we have in-depth studies on that. But just as a nutshell, I'd say there was a study came out recently by the Common Sense Advisory, which says that more than 75% of multilingual consumers prefer to buy their products in their native language. And about 55% of them say they'll only buy it online if it's in their native language. And if you've got, the bigger the market, for example, if you're in the US, you're not going to buy it if it's not in your in English or in Spanish. But the smaller the market, if you're from Luxembourg, you probably will accept to buy something out of the French market, the German market, the Dutch market, or whatever. So the smaller the market, the more open you are, the larger the market, the less. Then geolocation fits in with that. Geolocation is about centering your website and allowing you to identify where people are coming from and to direct them to the right place. Then moving on in terms of the website checklist, obviously for us, mobile-friendly design is something that's just a given in today's market, and we would really encourage you to have a strong look at this now. People are really not plugging into PCs. They're on the move, and they want to have a mobile-friendly design, mobile-friendly website. Hosting is very important when you get to international websites. It's about download and upload speed. Given the fact that you've got seconds of attention span, you want to upload, download very quickly. Content management system, this is the architect software that websites are built on. It's important to get the right one. Nick alluded to this when he started talking about DIY platforms that are being, you have to make sure that it works internationally. Not all of them do. Regulatory requirements are something that's going to get more and more important in the coming years. And certainly anyone dealing in Europe is at the forefront of that. Domains, this is basically your .com, .co.uk on your website. It's really important to own the ones that you need, that you have a target market in. And if there's, do not let your distributor own that. That would just be handing over your brand. So really make sure that you're protecting your online brand by using your local domain. And it allows your country-specific marketing, tracking, visitor access, everything. And finally, last but certainly not least in today's market, the use of social media. And social media means also optimization. Just a quick overview on optimization, what we mean by it. A lot of people don't realize that you need to optimize for your visitors, not necessarily for your website, but for your visitors. Now, optimizing doesn't mean necessarily always Google. In China, for example, you need to optimize it for Baidu, and in Russia for Yandex, in South Korea for Naver. Those are the three I put up there. I mean, Google obviously has got a huge market share, monopolistic market share across Europe. But that does not mean to say that it is global at all. So you really have to have a strong understanding of what search engines your clients and targets are using, and then also what language-specific and localized keywords they're using. So what matters to search engines are clearly the keywords. Most of all, above all, it's always content, content, content. John, do you want to do a quick poll there too?
That is fantastic. Thank you, Susanna. That was very interesting. Yes, here is another poll to go with that. I'm launching the next poll, poll number 4. So here you go, please. Are your international websites optimized for their target market? So if you're out there and looking at international opportunities, do you think that you've got your all main export markets? Only a few? Not sure? No. So what we're seeing here, we've got 20% saying yes, 25% saying not sure, basically a little over 50% saying no. So there you go. It's time for me to close out this poll, and I thank you very much. I'll get that going, and I should hand it back to you, Susanna. Thank you.
Great noise. Just one slide then about localized marketing, and again, this is something we've written a lot about. We have webinars on, and we can certainly dive down in greater detail. Localized marketing allows you to have local lead generation. It's as simple as that. And if you don't localize your marketing efforts and engage locally in the local language and the local parameters, the local culture, and the country-specific marketing, you're not going to reach out and really hit your target export markets. So it's you have to make sure that your investment is really actually working for you. And I put it in bold there. For us, if you're going to go global, then you need to localize your online presence and have a global brand, and that means strong local marketing. So just sort of summarizing, and there's a lot on this slide, I apologize, but remember, I mean, it's you are getting this is to take home. We tried to list all the things that localization can do for your websites. It enhances all of this. It allows you to have a B2B and a B2C strategy for your development. And in summary, just again, I think Nick really summarized a lot of these and said, these are the different options you have in e-commerce, whether it's online malls or using distributor websites that have an e-commerce functionality, or right up to the sort of the custom-built, 4-star own control website, which is the real full deal there. All of them, even when you're going on to Amazon, even when you're starting at the very beginning in terms of online malls, all of them benefit from having a vibrant, localized website where you can control your brands as opposed to handing over your international development and brands to other people. So I'm just going to sort of finish on that line and just have you one last little thing, and as I want to bring in a fellow New Yorker, and here we go, one of my favorite New Yorkers, and you know, he always said 80% of success is just showing up, and certainly in terms of online and driving your business forward, showing up means being visible, being local, being implemented, and being a success in local markets. So there we go, John.
Yeah, Susanna, I love that slide. When I saw you put that slide up there, I think that's great. Well, you can see where we're trying to go with this webinar, and therefore I thought it was appropriate for me to put a poll. So please, here you go, no rest for the wicked. I'm launching the poll now. Is Woody Allen right? You can see the choices Susanna gave you. It's either yes or absolutely. So what do you think I've got? By the way, everybody, it's 100% absolutely. There you go. With 100% absolutely, I can close out on that. I thank you all for participating.
Great.
That is my favorite poll. I'm closing that.
I'm happily on.
Susanna, back
That's
to you.
excellent. Okay, well, John, I hope we haven't overrun our time, and I hope there's some questions in there. If we have time for some questions,
Absolutely.
I'm sure that Nick is
Yeah.
there.
I'm diving into the question box. Look, thank you very much indeed. There have been many hands up as well, and I'm sorry if we haven't been able to get back to the hands up. Please know that we will get back to you during the course of the days ahead. There are questions. First of all, let's use our time quickly. Nick, this is from Frank. Frank says, should he use alternative payment methods at the checkout stage when considering localization? Can you answer that one quickly?
Yeah, sure. Great question. So I presume if you mean, you know, when we talk about alternative payment methods, credit cards, debit cards, prepaid card offering, the answer there is, yeah, it really depends on the gateway currently being used within that country. And also knowing, you know, the preferred method of payment by consumers. So, for example, we know that in Germany, credit cards are hardly used and they prefer to pay by cash transfer. So it becomes, again, it's horses for courses. So it's really understanding, you know, what the preferred payment method is, and then look at offering the other alternatives. But it's as I said, look at that as the key.
Great response. Thank you for that, Nick. Look, Susanna, a quick one here from Denise in the US, .com English US site. She says she's got, and they use Google Translate. Do they have to translate?
You know, Google Translate is not all bad. It's not all bad. It has its uses, especially if you have a need for a very quick and cursory overall understanding of something, preferably something very short. But we've all seen the jokes about what happened when Google Translate get it wrong, and you get some absolutely hilarious misinterpretation of something. So you know, it's just not a good idea if you want to be taken seriously. And what kind of image does it really give your prospects that you don't even care enough to translate your information well? So you know, Google Translate, it has its uses. I would really say that a good translation is worth the investment to make sure that your prospects understand that you care about them and they understand your message very clearly.
Yeah, Susanna. Susanna, thank you very much indeed. I mean, that does make total sense, and we see that in many case studies. So back to Nick. Aline wants to know about delivery options that should be considered.
Okay, so again, I suppose this depends on what the current infrastructure for that country. Consumers generally will buy online, want their goods yesterday. So, you know, where possible, a next day delivery option that clearly shows any additional costs can be applied and would be good practice. But again, you know, understanding what the current infrastructure is for that particular country.
Got it. Thank you. And a quick one again. We have a few minutes spare, just 2 minutes, I'd say. Nick, again for you. This would be from Charles in the United Kingdom. How do I minimize fraud when choosing a platform?
Well, that's a cracking question. So, you know, everybody sort of tends to put fraud under the carpet because they, you know, whether you're a tier one multi-channel merchant or you're just a small merchant, you know, there's always that risk. So again, depending on the platform you're using, so for example, selling on malls and plugins means they normally have a dedicated fraud software that runs in line with the payment gateway or processor that's currently in place. Ultimately, having your own platform allows you to have more control over that, over the fraud levels you'd like to set in line with that country's preferred payment method. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, very practical. And I'm sure, and it goes without saying, please, attendees, do know your questions. We will get back to you for further questions at a later date, and don't hesitate to continue submitting them. Let's go for our last one. This is from Tom. Tom is based in Massachusetts, US. He says they sell sunglasses online in the US. They see that their glasses are sold online through distributor malls and platforms, some of which they want and some that they do not. How do they take back control? Wow, that's a good one. Susanna, what do you think?
Thank you, John. That's actually a very big question. It's something that we come across regularly from our clients. And it happens when you've allowed your distributors to really get hold of your brand. And there's no easy way out of that except build it back bit by bit, market by market. So start with looking at the major markets, your priorities, the ones that are giving the best prospects, the best returns, and take back control by building a localized website there. Make sure the first thing you do is to buy the local country domain name so that your distributor doesn't own that, and that way any distributor, whether it's a mall, whether it's a plug, whatever it is, has to go through your website in that local market to get the marketing and so on, and you dominate that market, and then just bit by bit build on it over time by building out your local websites into a global presence and taking back control. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sorry, we're at 47 past and being somewhat respectful of the time. I want to thank you for the many questions. There are questions coming in about strategies and questions about service versus products. Please know that we will get back to you. We will respond to these specifically, and we apologize in advance for not responding to all of the questions now. This is just a closing little factoid. I always love our little factoids at the end of a webinar. Susanna alluded to it already. For your information in terms of e-commerce and mcommerce growth, Susanna mentioned the 20% figure. That is about right. I mean, in the main markets, growing at 20%. So the opportunities are clearly there. Get on board and please apply today's information. And mcommerce, well, there you go, 50% plus growth in the main markets. Again, it's just another indication. Please get your business out there and online. These are important decisions for the business for the future. I want to remind you that today's webinar was one in a series. We will be back in 2 weeks' time. Please go to our website, look at webinars on demand, and join us again very, very soon. And do be aware that when I close this down, which will be in about 1 minute's time, there will be a survey on your screen. So please do go to the survey, give us some more feedback. It's really welcome. We welcome your feedback in terms of helping us to do better for you going forward. There is a recording. This has been recorded, and we will get this recording to you by Friday, so keep an eye out on your email inboxes. We thank you for participating. A quick thank you to Susanna for doing a great job. Nick, for all of that expert insight, we thank you. We hope that you as attendees found this useful with lots of takeaways. And I'd like to, on behalf of all attendees, for Susanna and Nick to go, yes, that was great. I know that you will do that all here if you were here. So Susanna, Nick, I want to thank you. That was a great job. And I'm now going to press the goodbye button for the survey. So thank you again, and thank you for joining us, and speak to you and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Happy exporting.